Hi. I think I remembered everything I need to set up for all of the streams, except I have to move my phone tripod when I get to that point because it's in the way, but that's okay. Oh my goodness. So, yeah. Everyone on the non-Instagram stream can see where we're at with my current work in progress as well as the finished piece. So that's cool, I guess. Just gonna get comfortable. I have to sit cross-legged in my chair to be comfortable, and then I move my leg slowly anyway, so whatever. We'll just give it a couple of minutes for people to jump on. And I was really hankering to stitch on this last night, so I'm glad to be back live so that I can do some more stitching. And like I said yesterday, we're going to do a couple of the stitches that we've already learnt so that we can kind of finish those off a little bit. And then my plan is tomorrow, which is Wednesday, we will do the little circle flowers, so the little purple ones, and then we will, so my hope today is to do all the lettering, the bee's wings, and the little like trail that goes off the bee. And then tomorrow we'll do the circle flowers, so that'll be fun. Everyone loves doing those flowers, so it's always good to have that one in your arsenal, I feel. And that probably will be kind of a short day, which is okay. And then on the last day, we will leave the best to last and we will do French knots. So that's all the little dots here. So all of these little bits here. So that's my plan. I actually have a plan now, so that's great. Everybody loves a plan. I've kind of just been winging it. No one let me know that they had a preference for any of the stitches to learn next, so that's not a problem. It meant I could figure out my own plan. I did yesterday go out and I bought some more of my 510 DMC floss because this was all I had left, and that's all I had left, and I was already at the store anyway, so that's some cool news, I guess. Yeah, but I got other stuff and I'm planning a reel with all my other stuff. I was hoping to do it this morning, but I completely lost track of time. Not enough to forget this though, so that's important. And I'll try and do my reel before I have to go and pick up my kids, but it could have to wait until tomorrow, which kind of sucks because I need to do this thing before I can work on other stuff, like actual work rather than just making a silly reel. Whatever. Okay, well, I'm gonna get my things set up, tuck my fabric in, and of course, if anyone, especially people who are live, if anyone's got any questions, let me know. Now's a great time. I can answer anything that you may have thought of or run into. I fixed my camera as well for people watching off Instagram, so like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. I fixed my camera. I have no idea what I did wrong, but it's fixed now, so that's the important thing. and I even fixed the mounting thing that it was on, so I was on a roll. But yeah, let's, I'm going to move my phone and plug it in up there. And I try so hard to not press any of the side buttons. It's really difficult. And you get to see my messy desk. What did I do? Here we go. Alrighty. So again, no one has complained about the fact that I have my stitch along sideways, so hopefully it's not a problem for anybody. I can't angle, unfortunately, I can't angle my camera or my phone mount to be vertical with the way that my desk is set up. So it's got to be sideways, but that's okay. Alrighty. Let's get started. I've got 2 needles still, so it's not a problem if you don't have the option, but I've got my big needle, which I've done everything for except the B, which I did with my smaller needle. So today we're kind of going to use both needles. I'm going to put the big one away first though, because first thing we're going to do is the little bee wings, which look like this. And my camera's having trouble focusing. So this is just the back stitch, which we already did on 2 of the 3 colors stems, but we're going to do teensy little back stitches this time, so that we actually curve around the wing shape and give it a nice flow to it, rather than being much longer and kind of cheating, I guess, and it looking really choppy and not very nice. So we're going to get our white color again, which I cannot believe has knotted so bad. Oh my goodness, I'm just going to pull that whole thing up. Look at this mess. My goodness, that's horrible. I'm going to just untangle this off camera, because that is, actually no, I've got enough here. I got my scissors, and all we need is 1 strand. So again, this is 6-strand embroidery floss, and it's struggling to focus. So we got our 6 strands here, and all we need is just 1 of those. So we're going to pinch all of the floss in one hand. We're going to tug out 1 strand, and you can see it bunching up behind my fingers. That's okay, as long as you can keep pulling it out. That's it. And then it just relaxes and untangles. It's like magic. So I'm going to get my tiny needle and thread it on. And then we want to do, because we're only using 1 strand, we want to wind it quite a bit to make a decent sized knot. Because I'm using a thinner needle than I was before, oh, that didn't pull through. Because I'm using a thinner needle than before, I don't have to worry about wrapping it around like 20 times or something, because this needle obviously is going to make a bigger hole in the fabric than this needle. So I still need to wrap it a bunch to make it a good knot, but like that is sufficient, because this is not going to create a huge hole in the fabric. And then what we're going to do is move the camera and stuff so that I can zoom in and get the right positioning and stuff. It's struggling. There we go. Okay. And we're going to come up right next to the stitches that we did before. If you need to, you can use your nail or use another needle to move the floss out of the way. And then we're going to go in. We're only going to do like, oh, I don't even know how far that is. I feel like that's like 2 or 3 millimeters. And do our back stitch. Okay, I'm now thinking that I've mislabeled the pattern incorrectly, and it's actually 2 strands. Okay, I apologize. It's not 1 strand, it's 2 strands. So I'm just undoing it. Okay, I'm just going to cut it so it doesn't want to come out properly. What is happening? Oh, I actually created a big knot on the back. Okay. Alright. Anyway, we're going to have 2 strands. So either you can use the 1 strand that we just pulled out, or you can grab a second strand. Not a problem at all. I'm just going to... Actually, no, I'm going to pull out the second strand. No, I'm not. Indecisive. So I'm going to do the reverse loop start thingy that I've shown you, where I've got both ends of the strand of floss here. I'm just waiting for my camera to focus in on it. So there's both the strands of floss, and then I pull it to the other end and the needle is in the center of the floss. And then I'm going to do a quick knot. So I'm going to fix that bit of the pattern too. Silly me. Trim the end. Alright, let's try that again. So because I've got a bit of a mess on the back, I'm actually going to start away from the B and start the back stitch like I would have already started it, if that makes sense. So I've just gone backwards first. I just have to watch out that I didn't poke the needle through the knot on the back. And that is our little tiny back stitch, and that looks so much better. I'm really glad I noticed that straight away. Hang on one sec, my back's really feeling very tangled. Okay, I had that little bit left over from before. There we go. So today is probably a really good day for me to answer any questions that anyone might have, because as I mentioned at the start, we are doing stitches that I've actually shown you how to do already. I just didn't want to say to everyone, alright, so you've got homework. Now you need to go and do this bit and this bit and this bit of the stitches that we've learnt. Because it was pointed out to me in a previous stitch along that a couple of people wanted to actually see me stitch those parts. I think it was in my first stitch along, so I was like learning the ropes and what should I assume and do. And so the main thing with the wings is to remember that they do cross over, because you can see through wings. So they overlap a little bit. For the last one, I'm going to come up where I would normally go in before, just so that I can make sure that I go underneath the bee's body so it doesn't look detached. So yeah, if you are watching live or if you're watching after the fact and you have a question pop up in your head straight away, I doubt I'll be disappearing from the internet anytime soon. But yeah, ask away. I'm happy to answer. I'm happy to help. That's why I'm here. Here to teach and help. So just making sure that I didn't pierce through my previous stitch, and I'm actually going to go and make it look like it runs underneath the other wing just by doing that tiny little stitch a little bit differently. My camera is struggling. Sorry about that. Thought I'd fixed everything with my camera. Now it's got new problems. But this bee is not going to take terribly long. So that's one set of wings. I don't even know if this is exactly what pollinating bees look like, I'll be honest. I just doodled a little bee and I was like, that looks like a bee, enough to embroider. So apologies to bee enthusiasts if I did it wrong, but hopefully it looks cute. P.S. Save the bees. My previous house that I lived in, our next door neighbor was a beekeeper, and oh my gosh, our house swarmed with bees whenever he would go out and tend to them. And I was all like, yay bees, except the ones that live next door to me. I didn't like go out of my way to like harm them or anything like that. It was just annoying to live next to. Oh, I realize I don't have my back posture thingy on today. So I'm looking at my pattern and I'm noticing that the wing I'm currently stitching is actually a little bit squat compared to the opposite sides one. And I'm assuming that's purely, yeah, looking at the pattern, that's purely my sketching error. So I'm actually going to kind of deviate a little bit from the pattern and give it a little bit more length, which again is absolutely fine for you to do. I didn't deviate as much as I planned, so that's okay. You can say it looks like the bee from an angle. Yeah, you can do whatever you like. This is just a guide a suggestion. Same with the color options and the order of the stitches. I mean, some of them you kind of need to do in a certain way, but others you don't. Okay, so the next part is the little running stitch that we do from the bead of the flower, and I'm gonna carry my thread because I need exactly the same color and strands. So I'm gonna come up at the start of the first running stitch, so here, and I'm gonna go in there. So this is about the same distance as the back stitch that we did for the stems. And again, if you watched my first day, you might remember that I was really rough and quick with this when I was sketching it out, because to me this is just following the line. I should have honestly just done it as a line, because I'm now not going to follow those dots exactly. I want to make sure that what I stitch looks the way I want it to. So I'm making sure that my stitches are the same width apart and the same length, which is the same as the width apart. Well, that was a really confusing sentence. I'll try that again. So I'm making sure that all the stitches are the same length and the gap in between all those stitches is the same width, or same distance as the width of the stitch. Hopefully that makes more sense. Why is it that we assume bees fly around in circles like this? Anyway, I don't think I've ever seen a bee do a loop-de-loop. I wonder if that's an Australianism. Anyone watching live, let me know. A loop-de-loop. That reminds me of an Australianism I discovered recently. I took my daughter to the playground and they have this circle. I'm trying to describe it before I name what I call it. They have this circle thing which you spin around. You can either sit on it and have someone spin you, or you can spin it while people are on it. And apparently in America it's called a merry-go-round, which to me doesn't make sense, because there's no horses. So it's not a merry-go-round to me. But in Australia, we call it a whizzy-dizzy, which I think is just an exceptionally better name than an merry-go-round anyway. But it makes you dizzy, and you go wee, you know? Like, how is that just not a better name? Anyway, hopefully you guys get a kick out of my translations. But I had to figure out what it was called in America, because my daughter was asking me what it was called, because she wanted to be able to ask people at the playground if she could play with them on it. And I was like, I need to go and figure that out from the internet. Because if I tell you what it's called and you go and ask kids from this country that, they're going to laugh at you. So that's my story. Anyway, so we've done our little running stitch and we've done our back stitch. How quick was that? It's only been 20 minutes. So next bit we're going to do is the lettering, which is going to be the stem stitch. We are going to use our dark grey again. We're going to use 2 strands because The stem stitch, as a reminder, makes it look like you double up your strands of floss. So I'm going to pull out 2 strands of DMC 3799. I don't have much left. I may have to go hunting for some more. And I know I have more. I think I know where it is. But I'll still have to go hunting. Anyway. I'm just putting it together. And I'm going to use my chunkier needle for this one. Just because I can. I'm just tying a knot off camera in the end. And then we snip the tail and we're ready to go. So the first thing we do, because I write English, I write it from left to right. To me, it makes the most sense to start from the left and work my way over to the right. So the first thing we're going to do is come up right at the tip of the B's curve and do our tiny little stitch, which, if you remember, is going to be half the distance of our stem stitch normally. And then the main thing to remember with our stem stitch is we hold the floss away from our work in the same direction. So I'm going to be holding mine to the left of the work, I think. But basically, I'm going to be holding it like in the same direction no matter which way the lettering goes. I'm going to go in, come up where I went in before, and then pull through. So I'm actually going to try and figure out how I can angle this so that my hand isn't in the way constantly. Just bear with me. My camera is being kind of a jerk today. So is everything's being a jerk. Everything is a jerk today. Everything can just jerk right off. Okay. So some of these curves are going to look a little bit strange. Some of them are going to look amazing. But remember that you want to keep your stitches relatively loose and keep it kind of gentle so that once it's finished, we can slightly manipulate how they sit. So a prime example of where it might look a little bit strange is this tiny curve of the B and the loop of the R, because they're really tight curves. So because I've got it nice and loose, I can actually just like gently shift the floss, and now that looks like 10 times better. It does take quite a bit of practice to remember to keep your floss nice and gentle. Gentle feels like the best descriptor. You're obviously not being gentle to it, but it's like, it's tight-ish, but it's not too tight. So as you can see, I'm having to now hold my floss this direction because I've completely changed directions in the way that I'm stitching. It's still the same side that I'm pulling the floss away from my work. It just happens to be down now. And that is like the one thing that can kind of stump people when it comes to the stem stitch. Because if you don't make sure it's being held in the same direction, you're going to have a little section of your stitch that doesn't curl the same way. This is why it's good for stems, because it's all kind of obvious which way you need to keep holding it. But it looks really great for lettering. It's just a little trickier. So for this one, I've gone in really close up to the previous line, and my plan is to come up like I normally would, pull through, and then I'm going to go a little bit further along than I normally would, and I'm actually going to come up on the other side, so not in the same spot, but on the other side of the previous line, because I don't want to make that little bit too thick. It's still, I don't know if you can see it, you can probably see it on my camera, kind of. You can still see that it's running underneath, but it's really subtle. It doesn't help that this is a really dark thread. So for the corner, there's a couple of ways to do it. I like to actually finish off the stem stitch and then continue like I would do the normal branches. Hang on, I was pulling it down. And that way it gives it a sharper edge, like you would if you were actually hand writing this. So we'll be doing a couple of those, like the H and the parts where the E connects up to the words, so the R and the tip of the H. So to get around these little corners, my suggestion is to just slightly, before you get to the corner, slightly start doing your stitches a bit smaller. Because again, it's just like basic math. The shorter the lines of a circle, the more curve it gives it. I guess the more lines within a circle, the more curve it has. Oh, everyone's being quiet today. It's okay, I've had lots of practice chatting to myself. So once we finish this little bit properly, we'll be able to run our needle around the inside and actually like get the floss to sit exactly where we want it to. I just kind of like to remind it that I'm boss. So I'm going to go right up to the edge, come up where I normally would, and then skip over the top and come up on the other side, because again we want it to look like it's crossing over. So I drew this really poorly. I noticed it at the end of day one. So I'm not going to follow the line very well that I've drawn, because I actually want the R to look a little bit more curved. So again, I'm just making my stitches short. Did I do that wrong? No, I don't think so. My floss is getting very tangled though. And just a reminder, we're just using 2 strands, and that's why it looks a lot chunkier, because this, than like the wings that we just did, because we're essentially doubling our thread over. And just also a reminder to keep your thread gentle, as I was saying before. You don't want to pull it through too tight, because we do want to fix stuff like this little tiny loop, which we do by just rolling it back out, I guess. And then I'm going to come all the way out over here. And I'm going to finish that because I want a nice pointy bit of the R. And then I'm going to start it again. When you finish it off like this, you have the opportunity to fix which way you're holding it as well. So technically this might not be the same direction that I'm holding it. But that's okay. As long as you make sure that it's the same direction for all of the bits that you don't break. And also don't forget to breathe. I don't know what it is about stem stitch, but do what the words that we're stitching say and breathe. So I'm going to skip over here because I want that bit to be thinner. I want the actual E to look proper. So again, I'm just shortening the length of the stitches to get around the curve of the E. I'm about to lose my thread. It's trying to come off my needle. Because it's super winded. Oh my god, I'm making up new words now too. Super windy on my needle, because I can't just let it hang. Which is another reminder to remember to let your needle just hang in midair so that it can unwind. So I'm going to do my stitches as normal. I'm trying to get up, there we go, over this crossover part, but I'm not going to pierce the thread. I'm kind of like stepping over it normally. So we're going to end it again. And we're going to jump over to the start of the A. Stretch my back. Come on, there we go. Need to get it to unwind again. So I'm just kind of trying to let it unwind with getting the needle out of the way, running it down my thread towards the fabric. It's not as good as letting it hang and unwind. It's better than nothing though. Did I pierce the thread? No, it just wasn't sitting right. So I want to make sure that my E connects to the A. And that's just visually lining up where your stitch is going to be. There's no trick to that, honestly. And then I'm going to come in there and then go all the way up here where I'm finishing it off, and then doing a regular little stitch, which I've done the wrong way around, but that's okay. I can come back from that. It's just a little annoying. There we go. So yeah, you'll notice that you have to stop and start a little bit because, you know, it's letters. You kind of have to do that. What did I do last time? I'm going to do the start of the T like you normally would write it. And then I think I might actually run out of floss, which would be good timing. So do my little foundation stitch, come up, and keep going. And then once I hit the H, I need to go back and do the cross of the T because it connects up with the H in that little fancy flourish way. It's called a ligature for those of you curious. And two letters that are used frequently next to each other create like a fancy little connection. Which you can find some ligatures in my add-on pack of Celeste. Oops. My needle fell off. It's my most popular font, which surprises me still to this day. Alright, and then I'm going to come all the way back over here, and I've got a little bit of floss left. Apparently not that much. Don't mind me. Licking my floss like a weirdo. So I'm going to go in on one side of the T, cross it over, and I'm glad I did the T the way I did because I didn't think about this crossover bit. Come up on the other side because we want that bit to sit over the top of the T's like body. Ouch, just poked myself. I love the TH part of this lettering. Alright, so to finish off a strand without actually finishing it off, like finishing off a letter, you go in and it's going to look wrong. We're going to flip it over, we're going to do our normal thing that we do to tie off our thread. When it comes to things like the back stitch and the stem stitch and all of that, I like to get to like a chunkier part that has a couple extra strands to do the knot. There we go. Then we're going to get the rest of my floss, thread my needle. Oh, I've got a knot in it. Actually, you know what? I can utilize that. I've already got a knot in my thread for somehow. So I'm actually going to improve on that knot. But it leaves me with all this tail. So I'm going to snip it off anyway. Alright, so we're working on this H. We want to be on this side of the thread, but we want to come up here. So what we're going to do is come up where we would have normally before. We're actually going to run our needle underneath the previous stitch and then keep going. And that puts us on the correct side of our work. And oh my gosh, I can't remember which way I was holding it. Yeah, like that. And then we just keep going. That's easier to do than trying to run your needle through the fabric and on the correct side of the stitch. You just come up where you're supposed to come up and then get your needle in the right position. I'm going to go in next to the previous line, skip over, and then come up on the other side of that line. So it still gives it the illusion that we've crossed over. It just doesn't make that crossover section really thick, because instead of 4 strands it's just 3 in that tiny little bit. So again, I'm going to end off my H because that's a point that we want to be obvious looking. And then we're going to do our tiny little stitch. And then do our stem stitch backwards again because I did it the wrong way around again. Or is it? No, it's not. I'm having so many brain fart moments today. Oh, it is. Okay, I'm going to undo that. Okay. And go in. We're going to come up where we want to come up. And then keep going. That's better. See, if I'd done it the other way around, it actually wouldn't have pulled the floss through properly. we're almost done. Just realized. So just a reminder to keep your thread not too tight, but not too loose. You don't want it to be flopping around all over the place, but you do want to be able to nudge it like that, and you know, around this curve and this curve and here. And if you've got it too tight, you're not going to give it any room to relax into position. So what did I do before? I did just like a big gap like that, and then came up like that. I'm gonna fix this E as well. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. Because right now it's a little tiny and it's a little tricky to stitch the way that it's designed right now. Oh wow, sorry, you can't see what I'm doing. My apologies. Thought I was doing a good job keeping my hand out of the way, and apparently not if you were on Twitch and Facebook and YouTube. So I'm going to go over here. And again, I'm making the body of the E thicker over the top. So I'm going to do it normally. I was holding it this way. And what timing? Because it's almost time to finish up anyway. And then I want it to have, like, I want it to peter off a little bit on the E. So I'm not going to do the tiny stem stitch, the tiny stitch at the end. I want it to look like it's, yeah, easing off. Like you've like continued writing but lifted the pen off the table. So the next thing to do is just to like, I mean, washing it is going to help, but running the blunt end of your needle along the main curves of all the letters is going to help train your floss to sit in the right spots. And it's obviously not going to be absolutely perfect. It's handmade. The fact that it's handmade makes it perfect, in my opinion. But that's our lettering, and my does it make such a difference in the piece itself. So I'm going to just quickly cut it off. And then we might say goodbye for the day. Wow! Look at how far we've gone. Good job, everybody. Yay! So tomorrow, well, I've got both cameras pointing down. Tomorrow we're going to do the circle flowers, which is called the wagon wheel stitch, also called the woven wheel. And then that'll be a short day, because then the last thing we're going to do is probably one of my favorites, but most people's least favorite stitch, which is the French knot. and that is going to be all these flowers as well as the inner bits of the white flowers that we've done. So that'll be exciting. We're almost there. Good job, everybody. Just getting my phone set up. There we go. Yeah. All right. So if you've got any questions, hopefully that was all pretty easy because it was stitches that we'd already technically done before. But yeah, the stem stitch around all the lettering is a little bit confusing sometimes. So I'm not surprised if people are a bit stuck on that. So my Instagram stream is... No, it's fine. I think. Yes, it's fine. Okay, whatever. Yeah, that's the back stitch again, the running stitch, which we kind of touched on the last week, but that's what it does, like technically. And we're going to actually use the running stitch one more time, so, but it's very easy, and you don't have to make it look perfect the next time. And the stem stitch, which was a little bit trickier than last time. Hopefully you do a good job, hopefully you're happy with it, and yeah, hopefully you love how it looks now that it's got the lettering on there. I think it changes the whole piece. Obviously it's backwards for Instagram right now, but we're getting there. Almost done. So we'll be done on Thursday. 2 more days. And so for now, enjoy, and I'll see you around the internet. Bye.